We're going to get started now. So again, thanks for joining us today. My name is Russ Clark. I'm the Business Development Manager at BTRG. Before we get started, I just want to go over a couple housekeeping items. So note that all attendees are in listen-only mode. If you wish to ask a question, you can use the question box in the chat. We're not going to have time for questions at the end of today's webinar, but we will get back to everyone in a follow-up email. Today's session is being recorded, so by early next week, you should receive a follow-up email with a link to the webinar replay. And at that, let's get started. So for today's agenda, we're just going to do some brief introductions. We're going to talk a little bit about what we mean by the next big change for PeopleSoft. And then we're going to go into what we kind of consider the three components of that change, which are PeopleSoft on Oracle Cloud, getting and staying up to date with PUM, and managed services. And then we're going to talk about how to get started and really, how to make this change with PeopleSoft and really modernize your PeopleSoft. So with that said, I'm going to turn things over to Troy Vilmer, our VP of Sales and Marketing. Troy?
Yep, thanks, Russ, and thanks everyone for tuning in to today's webinar. Again, my name is Troy Vilmer. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing here at BTRG and been working in connection with PeopleSoft for probably more than 20 years now, geez. Along with myself, obviously, Russ is on the phone. He was our Manager of Business Development here at BTRG, and Mike Martin, who is BTRG's Director of Cloud Technology and Managed Services. So we'll hear a little bit from them later on. Next slide. Thanks. I'm glad my graphic came through on this. So when we began discussing the content we wanted to deliver in this webinar, it sort of kept coming back to a discussion that we have with clients on a daily basis. I'm sure you'll find that some of the points we're going to cover today are extremely familiar to your organization. I put a few of those common topics on a slide here. These are not cumulative, obviously. The problems with PeopleSoft, and this is what we're hearing from the market in the PeopleSoft user base. IT staff's too bogged down with maintenance and support. It can't stay current on latest images. They're having issues doing that. This is a funny one. We never get to what we used to call phase 2 or 3, and maybe that's more important to BTRG. We used to go into a lot of upgrades, doing more of a technical upgrade up front, getting them to the newest version of 9.2 and landing them on whatever the current image was at the time. And then they always had visions of grandeur to say, hey, we're going to do a more of a transformational fix in phase 2 and 3. We're going to roll out new functionality to the business, and we're going to implement Fluid and do all these things. Then all of a sudden, real world kicks in, and you're too bogged down and too busy to get to those phases. Rolling into that, our costs are too high. We hear time and time again that running and maintaining PeopleSoft is expensive, and it is. So we're always looking for ways to reduce that burden on the users because it's a fantastic product. I mean, let's not get me wrong here. It's a great product, and it's never been better with what they've been doing with it. But it is expensive to run. So we're making steps internally here at BTRG to help our clients reduce that cost, and not leveraging the latest features and functionality, right? Your folks will see a webinar like this or some from Oracle, and they'll say, wow, look at that new dashboard, that Fluid dashboard, and you're sitting on an early image and you don't have any access to that new feature or functionality, and it's sort of difficult to get to. So, okay, Russ, let's go ahead and turn to the next slide. So we have a good idea of what the current state a lot of our users are with PeopleSoft. However, if you had a magic wand and could instantly sort of transform how your organization runs PeopleSoft, what would that look like? I had a few ideas that I'm sure probably sound appealing. One being IT staff can focus on innovation and solving business challenges versus running and maintaining PeopleSoft and maintaining the status quo. The second one is continuously be up to date on the latest images. We know how problematic that can be if you don't have a plan to move forward. The next one is implement all desired functionality, and the last one is reduce cost. That's sort of the nirvana. So I put that lady doing some yoga in there, trying to find her zen. So it is interesting of what people would like to be doing with the product. Now, this slide, some of you may have noticed in the marketing material that we sent out, we sort of teased that the next big change in PeopleSoft is coming. And I still contend that that statement's true, although I don't believe that the next shift will have much to do with the software itself, but more how organizations run the software and maintain the software moving forward. We're seeing the shift already impacting clients today. Tomorrow's PeopleSoft is really going to sort of look like this. It's going to run on Oracle Cloud infrastructure to reduce cost and enable right sizing. You're going to stay up to date with recent PUM images as it gets easier to do so. You'll have predictable cost and leverage the latest fixes and features, moving forward. Last one being maintenance and support are going to be handled by outsourced managed services. There's some reasons for that, and we'll sort of go through those today. So these are sort of the three components that we're going to dive into a little bit deeper today that make up a significant cost savings if you choose to take advantage of them. So with that said, let me go ahead and turn it over to, I think, Mike, that's going to walk us through of how you get to the cloud.
Yeah, thank you, Troy. So I just wanted to step through what PeopleSoft looks like on Oracle Cloud and define a little bit about what we're talking about here. So, when we talk about, as Troy mentioned, some of the challenges with running PeopleSoft today and running it on premise, we have hardware in place that needs to be sized for the worst case scenario, right? So it's expensive, there's a gap, and it's underutilized because it's sized for worst case or our peak usage. And hardware is a bad investment. Excuse me. Hardware is not really where you want to be putting your money. I was at a conference recently where there was a CIO in attendance at the audience, and he asked the questions, and he started it with, I never want to buy any more hardware, right? So really not where you want to be focused. And then you have some of these more hidden costs, the energy, cooling, the space, the resource allocation for having on-premise hardware. Additionally, it's not elastic and your flexibility is limited because you have to size for peak and it's not going to automatically scale up, etc. And also it's very time consuming to run your applications on premise. It's like running your own, back in the day when we had, companies ran their own energy instead of buying it from the utility company. It takes away from your core business. So it's time consuming to have on premise. So just to give some industry perspective around cloud, cloud infrastructure is really not even just the future, but it's happening now. And if you watch some of Mark Hurd's predictions for the future, really everything in IT is moving towards a cloud infrastructure. And it's the highest area of spend. You can see the chart showing the rate of growth, and it's currently the highest area of IT spend where the market is heading. And it actually, the reason for that spend and the reason for focus on the cloud is because it actually has a measurable and tangible impact. In a CIO survey, 74% of CIOs listed cloud as the #1 measurable area of impact, right? So it's very significant what it can do. It's a paradigm shift. It allows us to scale and be flexible and do this all for reduced costs and fuels innovation, right? And so if we look at total cost of operation, and I know there's a lot going on in the chart here, but if you look at the gray boxes, those are kind of 4 areas of spend, server, storage, network, and IT labor. And we'll dive into this a little bit later. We'll describe where you get these savings, but cloud changes this model and allows us to actually eliminate some of these costs. And it is, again, more than just the cost savings. It actually changes the way that your applications run and what you can do with them. And we'll talk about some of those benefits. But it's scalable and it's actually even more secure, right? In some ways, it's more secure than what you do. So why does cloud matter for PeopleSoft? Well, if we look at it, some enterprises are looking at brand new cloud applications. I'm sure you're aware of the players in that space. But what we are kind of focused on and advising our clients is to look at what you can do with PeopleSoft, because it's the application you've been on it for a time, you own it already, you've already customized it. It's the application that fits your business. And if you were to stay on that versus looking at making a bigger change to get to the cloud, you're going to have more business disruption and more risk. So staying on PeopleSoft is actually your lowest path of resistance to getting what we'll now talk about as the benefits of being on cloud, right? So think of it, it's the application that we already know and love, but we can move it to the cloud to get cloud advantages. We can cloudify PeopleSoft in a way. by moving it from on-premise to Oracle Cloud infrastructure. So you'll get improved time to value because you're going to have flexibility now with your infrastructure. You'll get out of the maintenance mode and into innovation and getting to the phase 2 and 3 that Troy mentioned. There's some automation that comes with being on the cloud to how you pull down PUM images, the PeopleSoft Update Manager images. So fixes and application improvements become more automated on the cloud. And going with Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, they are the vendor that has created, well, own PeopleSoft now, maintains and puts the new features in PeopleSoft. Using them for your cloud infrastructure makes a lot of sense because they are the vendor that knows it, and the systems are engineered to work best on Oracle Cloud. You will get rapid elasticity. So one of the things we get with cloud is this idea of automatic scaling, load balancing. It adjusts to usage rather than being oversized and underutilized. And you can create new environments. So imagine being able to spin up a new demo environment to check out latest changes, or developers with a few clicks of a button being able to create a new environment that they can use for their development or prototyping or your upgrades. So think about what that would do if we didn't have to wait days and involve a DBA team to create PeopleSoft environments for us. So that chart we talked about before with the 4 areas of cost, now when we get to cloud, you can see where the savings come from. And what we're seeing in our clients is anywhere from 30 to 80% savings when they move to cloud infrastructure. And we're really seeing very realistic and very often right around 50% and up savings. And we'll talk a little bit more about this in case studies later in the presentation. But what happens when you go to cloud? Your hardware goes away, your data center can go away or portions of it. You're going to redirect your resources to the strategic initiatives, finally focusing better on getting to that nirvana state. Your support and services are going to be more efficient. Again, you're going to have improved time to value because you can spin up environments very quickly on a flexible infrastructure to allow developers to focus on those changes and get to them more quickly. So when we talk about cloud and elasticity, if you look at the top chart, you basically, when you're sizing hardware, you size for your peak performance, and then you add a safety buffer to make sure you're not overburdening the hardware at that peak. So one example would be having 32 cores dedicated to a PeopleSoft server. It's in your data center, and it's over-provisioned rather, and you're going to carry the license that goes with all of that. Versus an Oracle Compute Cloud infrastructure, we can cut that size in half because we can burst for the peak, but really size for the frequent load. So you are not going to be over-provisioned at all. You're actually going to be elastic and flexible to handle your performance needs as they come, but you will only be charged for the day-to-day and your much lower rate, half of the sizing and the hardware needed in the cloud. So where would you start on this journey or thinking about, does cloud make sense for us? And where you want to do is get to the number of what savings can you get? Where am I on the 30 to 80% savings scale? So the first thing we do is we want to look at what you're spending now. And actually, we can do that without you having to go and calculate a lot of costs. We can do it with a very quick server profile. So if you know the kinds of servers, numbers of cores, and what your hardware is behind your PeopleSoft environment, we can very easily get to a cost figure. And then with BTRG, we can go through a very simple process to give you a sizing sheet to determine what your costs would be on Oracle infrastructure and the savings. And then if you decide to move, how do you get there, right? So there are, Oracle's made it very easy to move your data. You can do something called lift and shift, which allows you to upload through a secure internet connection your database onto the cloud, or you can do more of a manual where you zip up your database, more suited for larger databases as well. You can transmit it to Oracle and put it up on the cloud that way. So that's all decided by your data size. And then another thing that you want to look at is, what other projects do we have on the horizon? Are we doing a bunch of PUM application images? Are we doing some upgrade work, or do we have a major enhancement going in, or additional modules or new functionality? So we recommend that you coincide these projects with other projects to gain efficiencies in your testing cycle. You can move to the cloud, apply your PUM images, and test that all once, and that's your most efficient way of going. So again, the effort, just wanted to touch on how actually fairly simple it is to get to the cloud, right? We have lift and shift, which is a very automated way of doing that move. That's functionality that's built into PeopleSoft Oracle Cloud Manager. You can do the manual migration we talked about, and again, Oracle provides tools for doing that. And if you coincide it with the other efforts, you're going to reduce your overall effort. So the effort we're talking about is very manageable. This isn't years or even many months. We're talking about weeks, days, and weeks of scale in moving these pieces. So just doing one environment is very manageable, and then the overall effort is really attainable. It's not something that's going to take you a very long time to make that shift if you wanted to move. So just talking about a case study here now, and actually this is BTRG's own case study. So internally at BTRG, we run PeopleSoft. And so we've decided to move our infrastructure to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure as well. We are profiling a small environment here, so just a couple servers, small amount of storage. But if you look at it, we were running on-premise, and we were actually using Amazon Web Services. So we did an analysis about moving to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. We found many advantages to go. First of all, we had a tremendous amount of savings, 50% savings on our infrastructure costs. And that is even 40% savings over Amazon Web Services. So Oracle Cloud Infrastructure is actually cheaper than Amazon and more simple because support is bundled and the whole agreement is much more simple than Amazon is. So now we run our environments on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, and you can see our profile there of 8 Oracle Cloud CPUs. We now have PeopleSoft Cloud Manager, which is tooling that's available in the latest images of PeopleSoft, and it's how you can pull down PUM images as well as provision new environments. So in a few screens, we can provision a brand new environment, and there's templates too as well, so you can have a dev template, a test, a demo, and you just choose which template you want, a few clicks, and your environment gets provisioned. So it used to take us, and we were very efficient at 2 days to stand up a new PeopleSoft environment. Now it just takes a couple of hours. And really it's a few minutes to get it going, and then you just wait for it to be provisioned onto the cloud hardware, and it's ready to go. So I'll turn it back. I think Troy is going to take it from here.
Yep. Thanks, Mike. Hey, all great points, man. That's good stuff. So I want to talk a little bit about where PeopleSoft is now and how they deployed 9.2 and why that changes how you're interacting with the product. I like to say, PeopleSoft right now, and I mentioned this earlier, is a powerful application. But as one of my good superhero friends always say, with great power comes great responsibility, right? So let me sort of explain what that means. Go ahead, next slide, Russ. So here's what happens to our clients that end up on 9.2. They upgraded to the newest version. They're on an early image and then decided to do very little to stay current. And let me tell you what, that's a common discussion that I have on a daily basis. Because like I mentioned, it's just so difficult to cut the time out to do these PUM updates and do the testing for it and everything that's involved. So a lot of folks haven't done anything. So here's what happens. So the original premise to 9.2 was you never have a large upgrade project again. Well, what we found that the clients that don't do anything, that's not exactly true. Because if you compile image after image after image that they release and it's at a pretty good clip, you end up with a pretty disruptive large project that sort of almost mirrors a large .x migration or upgrade like we used to see back in the early days of PeopleSoft. So more disruption to business, inability to leverage the latest features. And this is one that unless you're on a current version of People Tools and a current image, a lot of what they're now delivering is in fluid. and the precursors that you need to run some of this new stuff runs deep. So, being current is a good thing. Helps you leverage those latest features, and also the difficulty in solving current business challenges, right? So, if there's functionality or features that are released that directly apply to one of your issues that you're having, if you're current, it's much more easy fix to implement that feature or function to tackle that problem versus if you're not. Again, it's a much larger, more detailed project if you're behind in images and they release the fix that you need per se. Okay, next one. So I always like to take a stroll down memory lane here. I've over 20 years of this. You'll see how PeopleSoft has progressed, right, throughout the days. And this is, looks like it starts with maybe 7.0 and then 8.4. This is a guess, and then maybe 9.0. But it's evolved over time. Go ahead, Russ. I guess what we're seeing here, as you hear a lot about cloud applications and new modern systems, PeopleSoft is a modern system. And for those that have had the ability to see the cloud applications, you'll notice that's a fluid work center up top for manager self-service, and the top left looks extremely similar to the cloud application. Same tile look and feel, same navigation. So PeopleSoft, you always hear, oh, it's an old product. It's, you wouldn't put a 25-year-old washing machine in a new house. I don't look at it like that. I look at it as, if you bought a 1965 Mustang and you buy one today, it's still a Mustang, but it's completely new technology, features, and functions, and it probably goes a lot faster. So with that said, you'll also notice some of the features here around fluid and the mobile capabilities there. But here's where we are. It's got 25 years of maturity, which is why we see a very slow move from the PeopleSoft product to cloud applications. PeopleSoft at this point is fully baked. It does exactly what you needed. It's very low risk. However, it has adopted this cloud paradigm. And as I think Mike said that earlier, it looks and feels like cloud. You're going to be able to take advantage of the economies of cloud and moving it to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. The version 9.2 and the releases of PUM that I'm sure a lot of you are aware about gives you faster time to value, much like cloud. It's a continuous improvement scenario or cycle, much like cloud. The Oracle team themselves, who we're very tight with here at BTRG, we do a lot with the product development folks there. They released over 1,000 new features in the product since 9.2. So we could probably be on 10.0 or something like that if you were under the old method of numbering. Also, Mike mentioned the Cloud Manager, fantastic tool. If you're not using it, take a look at it. If you're not aware of it, figure it out, because it's a very quick way to spin up new environments. Do things that used to take days or weeks can be done in hours. It's a pretty neat, slick technology. Also, the way that users are interacting with the product. I think one of the biggest transformations that we've seen, especially in the later images, are new work centers, and they've streamlined pages and pivot grids. So it's more of how the individual employee is interacting with the system. It's less of a go hunt and find the information you need to do your job, and it's more of a it's coming to you on a tailored work center to deal with specifically what your job role and title is. So it's pretty neat. And then work centers, as I mentioned. Go ahead, Russ. So I reached out, and don't get me wrong, I'm not an HCM or finance expert, and don't even claim to be. So I reached out to our solutions folks, and I said, give me an idea of somebody that landed on 9.2, say image 9, because we do have a lot of clients that we talk to that are on, for some reason, image 8 or 9. And they've done a couple little takes here and there in later images, but they're still on those images. So if you just take a look from image 9 to 24 in HCM, they released 233 new features. That's a lot of new features, and that's excluding everything to do with the global payroll and payroll components of it if you're in a foreign land. The big ones here, as far as our folks are saying, are onboarding. It's been waited for a long time. It was released in PUM image 24, and then in 25, they even followed that up with a dashboard for manager self-service. So you can check in and see where your folks are in the process of onboarding. If there's somebody that's hung up at a process, you can intervene to get them pushed through and get them onboarded quickly. The next is guided self-service. Much better interaction with that product. Or even around manager self-service, around termination, you'll see here retirement, ad hoc salary changes, and transfers much more streamlined, much easier to tackle in the newer versions, the newer images, as well as that word keeps coming up, work center improvement. These are being based on the latest tool release. A lot of these are done in Fluid now, very quick, very effective. You can approve salary changes on your cell phone, you know, as you're in your car type of thing. So it's really integrated the way people are working and living nowadays. Go ahead, next one. Don't want to leave out our financials, folks. Same image I took from 9 to 24. There's 298 new features, a little bit more than HCM, released in financials since image 9. If you're asking how in the world I came up with those numbers, those that aren't aware, please Google Cumulative Feature Overview tool with Oracle. It's called CFO tool. And you can put in the modules that you have, what version you're on, what version you're going to, and it'll spit you out a report that that lists every single feature and function change in the product since then. Some of the new ones here are, again, the work centers around billing and expenses and accounts receivable. Those are in the more recent images. Fluid is starting to really make its way into the product. So I would say folks that are on an older version of People Tools and an older image, you need to get current. And you need to get current because if you don't have the latest version of People Tools, you can't even adopt any of this new functionality that's probably in the later images like 22, 23, 24, like that. So you see a lot of Fluid payment request forms and expense Fluid approvals and Fluid GL approvals. Billing, you'll see. And then they really dug a little bit deeper to the process side and really enhanced AR, some project costing functionality, reconciliation, treasury expenses, and billing. So they're doing a fantastic job at Oracle of pumping out new features and functions into the system. And that's why I said at the beginning of this, look, to be quite honest, PeopleSoft's never been better. Your investment and continued investment in PeopleSoft is rock solid. You know, you could hear that maybe a different story depending upon who you talk to or what they're selling or how they're comped. However, if you're at the PeopleSoft and you're on PeopleSoft right now and you're on the latest version, your investment is sound. Go ahead and move forward. I think here is one of the last slides. We sort of did this, and this is what we're seeing from clients and how they're tackling. And really, I mentioned earlier about having a plan to deal with PUM. You need to understand if you're going to be proactive in adopting these new images, how you're going to do it, what that plan looks like, and what the roadmap looks like moving forward. So I have 3 color codes here, if you're following on the deck here. Continuous improvement. And what I'm anticipating here is that on an annual basis, you're getting current on the newest image version. We have a staggered PUM, which means every other year. So you'll mention the cost to come up to speed in year 2 there is a little bit higher, and then you're going to drop down, take a year off, and then go back. It's sort of going to go up and down, up and down. And then we have this major upgrades, and that's someone that upgraded to 9.2 on an early version. You waited 3 years, you didn't do anything, and then you wanted to get up to speed. And the cumulative portion of that you're going to have to update is much larger, so the cost is significantly higher to do that. So having a plan, no matter what that plan is probably paramount in this discussion. And we can absolutely work with you and tell you what other clients are doing moving forward. Go ahead, Russ. Okay, on to you.
Yeah. So, you know, I think what all we're talking about here is moving your business forward. And, you know, one of the themes that we see is that organizations' IT is really strapped with maintenance and support. And what we're offering and what we're suggesting our clients to do is move to a more managed services, I guess, support model. You know, what we want to do is give the IT department some breathing room, enable them to work on the projects of innovation that Troy's been talking about, really drive the business forward. It's difficult to do so when you're spending a lot of your time providing that support and maintenance. I think one of the numbers that we've seen thrown out there is that 80% of IT budget is spent on maintenance and support. And quite frankly, you know, I'm pretty confident in saying that we can do the maintenance and support for less than 80% of your IT budget. So what we're saying is take that difference in cost and apply that to projects of innovation. Reallocate your internal IT teams to work with your business. You know your business better than anyone, and you know, use these new features to get modern. So a little bit of a managed services overview. You know, cloud and managed services are the future of the IT world. Mike mentioned the stat earlier about the cloud trend, but it's really paralleled with managed services. So cloud spend's up 19%, he said, and managed services spend is up 12.5%. So they really go hand in hand. These numbers over here are from a CIO survey, and when asked why they're partnering with a managed services firm, 56% said to increase efficiency, 27% said to take a proactive approach on maintenance, and when they ask how they're using managed services, 70% said for repairs and troubleshooting. So that again really goes back to the maintenance and support piece. Get that off your plate. Work on projects of innovation. BTRG really believes that there isn't a right size for everyone, and it's not one size fits all. We offer everything from help desk to full application and infrastructure support, and we'll actually talk about a case study for one of those clients in the next couple of slides. But we feel it's really important for each client to work with a partner like BTRG who becomes almost an extension of your team, and that's what we feel BTRG does. So we really work with our clients to formulate a plan that not only saves you money, but keeps you in the best shape possible for your environments and managing your support and maintenance and applications. So finally, another benefit of managed services is this proactive approach. And typically, our clients see better performance because that's all we're focused on. We don't have things pulling us in other directions. We have dedicated staff to your environment. Additionally, clients are typically more secure. In a recent keynote, Mark Hurd actually stated that 85% of security issues had a patch available for over a year, and 74% of clients take more than 3 months to install a patch. So, if you're running into security issues because you're not implementing these patches in an efficient manner, a company like BTRG as a managed support or managed services support can get that usually in and up to date in a more efficient and quicker manner than our clients can internally. So that's an added benefit. So, what are some high-level benefits going forward with a managed services provider? So again, first, the big one Troy talked about is we can help you get and stay current on PUM. As part of our services, we're typically offering a PUM update or recommending a PUM update at least once a year. That's typically what we find to be kind of the sweet spot. And with that, we can help implement new features or even just really work with your team to identify what the high impact features are. We can roll off of managed services into a time and materials with a rate card to attractive rates to help you implement these if you need to further support your application team. But really, getting and staying up to date on PUM is one big factor of our managed services. The second, again, better alignment of your resources. So get out of the support business, shift from maintenance to innovation. A couple of things I've talked about quite a bit already. And finally, you get more predictable costs. So with a firm like BTRG, we offer a fixed annual cost, so you know what you're getting. No surprises that pop up that need funding. And on top of that, we streamline the process and focus solely on keeping your environments running smoothly. So it's kind of not out of sight, out of mind, but you can sleep soundly at night knowing that someone is solely focused on keeping your support, your maintenance, your applications running smoothly. Mike?
Yeah, thanks, Russ. Just had to unmute myself there. So, so really, we're saying these three things kind of come together to give you, your new paradigm for PeopleSoft. And so, in our support offering, as Russ mentioned, we like to tailor it specifically. So we have various levels. So one offering that we have is infrastructure. We can take care of the infrastructure, especially if you make a move to cloud infrastructure, or even if you retain it on premise. We can handle all these technical layer of your PeopleSoft environment, the security, your storage, your database network, middleware, even virtualization layer, just kind of all of that infrastructure support to keep your PeopleSoft running. So that is one offering that we have. Just focus on that, and then your staff will take care of the rest. Additionally, we can go further and we can manage infrastructure for you. We can also go into the application as well. And a firm like BTRG, because of our deep experience with PeopleSoft, we're able to offer this. So you have various levels of application support here. Level one would be the taking the calls, help desk. Many of our managed services clients actually retain that internally, and they'll take that part, but then we'll do the other levels. So if you look at level two, you're into maintenance of the application. So break fix things, escalating from the call center to, additional layers of support when more investigation is needed. We have the expertise to do that. Batch and application performance management, making sure that everything is tuned and running properly, and just maintaining your application. And then going further, can also be included in your managed services contract would be application product support. So this would be configuration changes, applying patches, doing analysis in there, maybe escalation to consultant levels, consulting with the business, making sure that the application is configured and doing what is needed for your enterprise. And then level 4 would be additional projects and enhancements. A lot of times, if these are significant enough, they would move to a time and materials basis, as Russ mentioned, with very attractive rates for our managed services clients to tackle those more significant projects like a report development or major process or functional changes. Could be implementing new functionality or even additional modules, designing the system, things like that. And of course, along all of those, we have our account management and governance and strategy, client support level to make sure your managed services are fulfilling the needs that you need them to. So we wanted to kind of wrap up with a case study that actually is a client of ours at BTRG that's done all of these things, all 3 of the pillars that we've talked about today: moving to cloud infrastructure, getting current and staying current, and taking advantage of managed services. So this client, the current state, some of the issues they had is they were actually still running 9.0, and they wanted to get to 9.2. They wanted to expand their functionality and actually implement some additional modules because they had some gaps in their business process. And they really had a smaller footprint of modules that they actually ended up implementing, and they wanted to increase that and do a little bit more implementation. They were looking to increase their internal IT efficiency, so they knew that they were very bogged down. They were struggling to have the resources to tackle this upgrade, and definitely struggling to have the resources to be able to implement new functionality. They also had, on-premise hardware that they knew was underutilized. They were keeping their, the on-premise. They were running PeopleSoft on-premise. So the projected cost for just a 3-year window, just for the hardware alone, was $141,000. That's why they were looking to reduce that cost and apply some of the savings there to getting up to date and getting the business, the functionality implemented. So what we ended up doing for them, if we go to the next slide, is we had a managed services contract where we bundled multiple things together for them. Again, we like to customize the services to fit the client's needs. So we included an upgrade to 9.2 for them. We're implementing additional modules and functionality, and then production support services, both infrastructure and the application layer. So layers 2 and 3 in that chart that I showed earlier. And so we were actually able to get their demo environment and a dev environment up in days. This isn't weeks. So we stood up a 9.2 environment for them in Oracle Cloud so they could start prototyping and seeing what was in 9.2 and start that analysis for their move from 9.0 to 9.2 very, very quickly. Because it's on the cloud, we don't have to wait for hardware to get delivered. All we had to do is configure it, press a few clicks, and we have environments up and running for them. Also, the upgrade now is made easier because they're running on the cloud. So we were able to stand up a 9.2 demo environment very quickly. We were able to give them a dev and test environment very quickly. They could spawn additional environments based on that template for test, for example, or dev, right? So reapplying customizations now, when a developer goes to start, they can spin up environments really quickly to go in there and start to do that work. Also now we have Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, so they don't have on-premise hardware, but they're in the cloud with hardware, and the 3-year cost is now $37,000. So from $141,000 down to $37,000. So they are saving $104,000 just on hardware. And the provisioning time was reduced by 95%. So we're talking about we can provision environments now just with a few clicks, and it takes an hour, right, versus days, which is what it was for them previously. So really a great case study that kind of brings those three pillars together. And I'll turn it back over. I think Troy's going to take the summary now.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I appreciate it. I always like watching a case study, right? Because I never agree or believe just words. It's got to be somebody that's done it before to have tangible outcomes like that. So thanks for going over that, Mike. So, hopefully the takeaway from today is you're not alone in the pressures that you're most likely facing, right? I'm sure, as many folks, you're continually asked to do more for the business with less funding. It's a story that we've heard many, many times. So let me give you a little trick here. Here's the fix. Don't do more with less. Do less with less. As I heard the other day, I thought that was pretty neat. Computing power, maintenance, support, the things that we've gone over today is becoming a commodity in today's IT world. It's really a shift. Turn those components over to firms that specialize in it. Turn your attention to more business-specific strategic goals. At the same time, reduce cost. So, Mike and I were talking about earlier, it's like you now spinning up a generator outside to create power for your organization. You know what? You're probably not that good at that, and it's going to take you more cost to do that than just call the electric company to provide electricity to you. It's getting to be that type of familiarity with those components. So, to review today's discussion, here's sort of the components, right? Component one, and I like to call these component, not strategy, not wish list. I mean, these are the things that you're going to need to do to run PeopleSoft with the next shift. Migrate to Oracle Cloud. We see a savings of 30 to 80% on infrastructure. Those are real. We see those. Clients are doing that now. There's real savings. Evaluate and investigate what it's going to take or how that would impact you to move forward. Component two, stay up to date with PUM. Best way to do it, turn it over to us in managed services. We do it once a year for you, or somebody else, not even us. It's just somebody that does this time and time again is going to be more effective in getting it done quickly with less disruption. You'll be able to solve business challenges faster with more predictable cost. And then three, as a dovetail there, complete managed services, right? Economies of scale take place here. People are going to be monitoring your application. They're going to be helping your users fix problems with it. They're going to be implementing new functionality, improving resource alignment. Let that be somebody else's headache. Give you the ability to refocus on what your business does versus running an application that takes tens of people to do it and a lot of money. I always hear that, Mark Hurd said 80% of folks' IT budgets are spent on maintaining the status quo or maintenance. If you take these components and put those into place, even 10%, think about if you had an additional 10% of IT budget that's freed up to do something strategic with. That's a huge shift. And even for smaller companies, that's an even larger shift. It's a better percentage to play with. So, take these things into consideration. Now, I guess, a lot of folks that we have these discussions with, they see the light, right? They understand that, hey, this might actually work. It might save us money, but they're not quite sure where to start. And that's where BTRG can help. We'll guide you through that first step. And let me turn it over to Mike, who will kindly explain what that process looks like. It's fairly painless. Mike, it's all yours.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Troy. It is. It's a very, very painless. So this is just a picture, just some sample screenshots of the report that we can deliver to you after just one meeting. We call it a total cost of ownership. And so you get a profile. This is a sample that I've filled out just for BTRG. But you can see we kind of profile your environment, and then we give you this cost savings comparison, right? So if we go, and you can see the breakdown. So how do we get there? It's a very quick, painless call. It's like a 15-minute call. We have about a dozen questions that we can send to you ahead of time, and we can just get on the phone very quickly, make sure we understand a profile of your environment. We punch the answers into our TCO calculator and produce that report for you. So it's a really, really simple way to get a sense of what kind of benefit you can get by applying these strategies, and gives you, for lack of a better word, some ammunition to have this conversation internally and say, look, here's what we're projecting to see on this benefit. We're going to reduce our costs. How can we apply that internally? What can we do with that freed up cost? And so what we're going to do is we'll follow up. We're going to send all the attendees an email that will have a link where you can book that session directly with us.
Hey, Mike, I'll also add to that. I think if you're on this webinar, you should have received an email from me, as I think it comes automatically through a reminder. If this is something you want to do, you don't want to wait for this link in our email, shoot me an email. This is Russ, and just let me know, and we can line something up as well. So, any way you want to reach out to us, we'll line something up with you.
Yeah, and this will probably be one of the shortest, most impactful calls that you can have, because we're going to be able to produce this savings for you very, very quickly.
Okay, thanks, guys. Hey, it's Troy again. I just wanted to put this out there. There's a few places that we trust the content with, and one of those places is Mark Weintraub. For those that haven't been following Mark, he's one of the top folks on the PeopleSoft side at Oracle. He does PeopleSoft talks and in various webinars, and makes the circuit around the world pitching PeopleSoft still. So great guy. We trust what he says and does, and he is presenting a webinar tomorrow. Just want to make sure everyone's aware of. It looks like it's tomorrow the 21st. You can find this registration link on Oracle site, or if you go to LinkedIn and look at Mark's, our Oracle site, you can register for it directly. But I wanted to give him a little shout out, because he usually has very insightful webinars as well as BTRG. So take a listen to that, and we'd appreciate it. Go ahead, Russ, the questions. So if you have a question, there's a couple ways to get it done. You probably know one of us already. Go ahead and reach out to us directly. If you type it in the question box, and I see there's quite a few. So what we're going to do is we're going to take those offline. We'll respond directly to you in a short order of time here. So we answer every question that was asked today. And if anything comes up after we hang up, feel free to reach out to us at sales@btrgroup.com, or you can reach us through our website at btrgroup.com. But we absolutely appreciate everyone that joined today. We had a pretty good number of folks attending, probably wanting to hear what the next big shift in PeopleSoft was. So hopefully today was insightful. We look forward to continue these discussions with you and helping your organization walk through these three components of savings that we can help you with. So we'll touch base with everyone soon. Thanks for your time.